Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, The School of Love. My name is Maria and I am helping people discover their inner potential for love towards oneself and towards the others. Today, I invite you to a new episode from the series Mind Thoughts on Different Phenomena. And today I'm going to talk about a very difficult topic, which is my thoughts on cutting people out of your life. This is a very complicated, a very complex topic, and a very necessary one, particularly in this time and age in which people live long lives, which is a good thing. And we have to deal with all sorts of people throughout our lives, but you're very deeply, and the more time we spend with them, the more we become entrained in their lives, and they become entrained in our lives. And well, the older people become, the more complicated they become. Well, I avoid the word toxic, but unless one practices self-awareness and mindfulness and questions himself or herself on his or her daily activities, daily thoughts, daily emotions on a regular basis, people tend to turn toxic. So Jordan Peterson talks a lot in his speeches and writes in his books about this problematic of people growing older and growing more toxic unless they make a self-aware effort to not become so. And he also talks about this phenomenon that due to social forces around us, we tend to avoid to face our real selves. And for better or for worse, if one lives long enough, this will happen eventually. This will happen. So, and while it is dramatic in its own ways, if we face our own selves when by our mid-30s, it is actually tragic if we face our true self, let's say, in our 50s, 60s, 70s, or later on. I have read recently about a very specific type of hell in which you face your true self, or the one you could have become if you had had the courage to face your true self earlier on your deathbed. And you see all the things you could have done, all the things you could have achieved, all the people you could have loved and who could have loved you, and there's nothing you can do. The level of regret must be crushing, and this is something nobody actually wants to anyone, not even to one's most bitter enemies. So, and in the process of growing up, of becoming a reliant and self-sufficient member of society so that we can provide and support the others, having this kind of regular hygiene for our mind, for our soul, is fundamental in building up a healthy sense of self. And an important part of this regular hygiene for our mind and for our soul, for our spirit, is cutting people out of one's life. So, in the process of maturing and of becoming increasingly an active and proactive contributor to society, to those around us, letting go of people is a painful but absolutely necessary process. And I can say it from my own experience that ever since I have started doing it, my life has improved exponentially. We all know what exponential improvement or exponential growth means nowadays. And sometimes, as a third observation, sometimes it seems impossible. Sometimes it seems impossible to let go of specific people because one has been with them the entire life, like for instance our parents. But think about it this way. In earlier times, people would live in average 20-25 years. Mostly men would die in wars or labor accidents, and women would die in birth, during birth, or due to consequences, so medical conditions after birth. And so the children would be raised by extended families or by the immediate community. So they weren't really raised by their parents. The concept of this concept of nuclear family is socio-economic construction of the Second World War, of the society after the Second World War. And so natural parents would die when the children were still very small, most of the time in their infancy. And then the revolution, the industrial revolution came, the French Revolution, the ideological revolution occurred, and people started to live longer. And for almost 100, 150 years, people lived until their 40s or 40s or 50s. Still, when they died, their children were in their late teens or 20s, or in their 20s. Still, the children had at least 20 years of of free life, yeah? So without parents to tell them what to do and how to live their lives. There were of course some social pressure, but it wasn't so strong as when your parents are alive and tell you what to do. Nowadays, when people live 70, 80, 90, 100 years, what happens is when parents die, the children are already in their 70s or 80s. They could be in their late 50s, but this is increasingly rare. So imagine you have lived your whole life according to the rules and principles and visions of someone else who has such a strong hold of you, of your mind, of your soul, because they created you, that you cannot escape it. And then when you are finally free, you are in your 60s, you have no more vitality, you have professionally, you're done as well. And in worst case scenario, you have also ruined actually at least one more generation, your own children, so the grandparents, the grandchildren of your parents. So the better you make the decision, maybe not to cut them off, but at least to distance yourself from them and gain your sense of autonomy and independence, so that you can live the life you want for yourself, for your partner, if you have one, or for children, if you have any. But anyway, by all means, the life you wish for yourself and not the life someone else decides for you. So this would be the most difficult cutting off people from your life. I know many people who have done it in their late 30s, early 40s. This is a period of time in people's lives when they have to make decisions. Big, important, heavy decisions which have been postponed for years because they are so heavy and difficult and important. And there is a time, a moment when we cannot postpone them anymore. We have to face it. We have to face the music. We have to walk the talk. Or we don't do. And then we have to deal with the consequences of not doing it. And the consequences are dire. The consequences are so ugly that any decision seems actually like a walk in the park. So, of course, cutting off friends, particularly if they are long-term friends, old-time friends, cutting off a partner or an ex-partner. These are all decisions which must be made and which are not easy. But as I said, the life afterwards improves tremendously, exponentially, and you will live with a fresh sense of empowerment and liberation. And sometimes it really seems impossible to cut off people from your life, and radical acceptance is the key to doing it, because there is no escape. There is no escape from just going with the flow. There is the thing doesn't work. The attitude of I'm just going with the flow and see what happens, this one doesn't work. So radical acceptance. So the situation is difficult. I have to solve it. I can solve it. I will solve it. I am solving it. Not resistance, not something like it's impossible, it's so difficult, it's not going to work out. Because as they say, again, in the law of attraction, is what you resist persists. So do not resist it. Accept it. Accept that it is a difficult situation, is a difficult emotion, is a difficult person, and you deal with it in a proper manner, which is beneficial to your life. That would be it for today. Thank you for joining me tonight, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you again very soon. Love and peace to you all.